Thanks for coming out and watching the oxymoronic Reddit Professional Show, where I showcase the best and worst of the internet. Here I comment on brilliant and hilarious comment chains regarding dumb shit on the internet for you to enjoy. Make sure to subscribe, hit the little bell button so that you get notifications every time we come up with a new video. Enjoy this week's show.
Forbes, employees who stay at a company for more than 2 years on average earn 50% less. Asking potential employers, how do you reward tenure, during an interview is very revealing about the company. Just recently started to do this in the last couple interviews. You can tell immediately what the culture is like, because they'll either light up or squirm. At my job, got a tie pin for 5 years. I think this is true. I recently changed jobs from a job I was at for over 4 years and got a 20% raise. Companies, in my experience, don't care about employee retention. They just want you for as long as you will accept what they pay you and are happy to hire and train a replacement. Wow, thank you for this gold. I was just about to quit Reddit, but this is the retention bonus I needed to stay. Thank you. In my experience, they're also very happy to not replace you and just expect more of everyone else. I have a coworker who's been on medical leave for about a year now. She's unlikely to return, she was close to retirement, and there has been absolutely no discussion of hiring someone new. They just gave her entire workload to the person she was working with. When I graduated from school, the market was really tough, and without necessarily planning to, I've traded up roughly every 2 years. I just took a new position and increased my salary from $75K to $120K. My old firm, where I worked as a legal project manager, tried to retain me, but couldn't make me a better offer. To be honest, I was relieved. I never intended to use it as leverage to stay. Presumably fearing a mass exodus, my boss begged me not to share the details of my new opportunity. Before my 3 weeks' notice was up, everyone at my level was given an impromptu 10K raise. I like to think I had something to do with highlighting how undervalued my colleagues were. Whether you'd prefer to stay at your present company or not, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't actively look for new career opportunities. Knowing your worth and knowing you have options is something business-minded people respect. I feel like this is a larger issue with our society, and I have no idea why. You can make more money if you switch employers. You can get deals, save money, by switching cable or phone companies every few years. Apartment rates go up every year you live someplace, yet every apartment complex seems to have decent move-in deals for new renters. It is like companies do not care how much extra work is involved with all the turnover. It is all just a big carousel where someone else will take the spot of the person that just left because the situation stagnated after a year or two. Very interesting observation with great examples. I just switched jobs, after taking a 30% pay cut, and other organizational changes. It was all around, everyone at my level took a pay cut. They also delayed my promotions, even though I had all paperwork ready. I'm starting in 2 weeks, working for a competitor, a less stressful job, making $15,000 more than my old job. This pay increase is enough for me to save $1,500 every month, or put it towards paying off debt. Totally worth the move. I worked at a large billion-dollar company with thousands of employees. The company would do annual performance reviews, and each employee would receive maybe a 3%, 4% bump in salary. Adjusting for inflation, this was about a 1% increase. You have to seek out other opportunities. Get the experience in and then find an employer willing to pay more. You don't owe your loyalty to an organization in the same way that they don't owe you a position. Generally, the largest mega multinational core are the worst, as they do a lot of uniform/lockstep policies for many areas. They might entice you with a nice starting offer and bonus/relo, but then hello 3% flat raises. Great discussion. I'm seeing two main opposing views, one that says a history of job switching on your resume hurts your prospects, and one that agrees that it's often the only way to increase your wage. To the former, I'd offer this: certainly, some hiring managers disapprove of a demonstrated history of jumping ship. However, I would argue that when this objection is present, it's probably misplaced. These early career positions that we're talking about are usually not the most complex in the field. Would you rather have an employee with 8 years of experience doing entry-level work in one specific environment, or an employee with 8 years of experience spanning multiple levels of responsibility across many environments? 8 years express may really only be 1 year of experience 8 times. I think it depends on the job. We have a highly technical workplace with long-term projects that stretch over many years. We hire to develop an entry-level engineer into the go-to guy for XYZ subject area. We are not going to like it if every person we hire learns 10% of the processes and then leaves for greener pastures. So if there is a clear time limit before you need to jump ship, we are not going to hire you for something critical. If there is a job where you can be trained up and be fully functional in 2 weeks, yeah, then I'm not going to care if you have a habit of leaving your job every 2 years. In that case, a checkered resume is not going to cause you any problem. I guess what I'm saying is what you might not realize is that a job hopper's resume selects for job hopper positions, so those guys doing continuous serial job hopping are never going to notice any downside. The problem will be if you try to settle down and find a more stable position. There may be questions asked. Really, there's nothing wrong with this if you want to keep doing as you're doing. My main worry, I think, is that I have friends that do this kind of thing. Hop from one job to another. Let me try to illustrate my reluctance with a short tale. I tend to like to find the best deals I can, especially with things that are high ticket like apartments and home rentals and whatnot. So I shop around. I was living in an apartment in Vegas for several years and my wife and I decided to move into a house. We searched around until we found a fairly new rental house near my work that seemed pretty cheap for the area. We pounced on it and were fine there. 9 months later, the owner had been foreclosed on and I, as the renter, was given 72 hours notice to GTFO. We quickly looked for another house, and found one. A new rental house, pretty cheap. We move in, 6 months later it's broken into by crackheads, and 2 months after that the owner is foreclosed on and we're given a very luxurious 2 weeks to GTFO. Cheap things are cheap for a reason. People who are motivated to find renters are motivated for a reason. Many open positions are open because turnover is high. Turnover is high because something about the job sucks. The more the job sucks, the more people know it sucks and the more they have to pay for good workers. I know a lot of people that move from job to job every couple years. And they aren't half as happy with the work, with the company, with the benefits, with the management, with their co-workers, as I am. So, for the moment, I forfeit that 20% so I can maintain my security blanket. To be fair, I was basically 40% underpaid before my last raise and I still stayed. So I'm probably loyal to a fault. I've only ever quit one IT job in my life. I am a teacher and always thought that tenure equals stability and thus good teacherness. After 10 years I'm realizing how particular my skill set is, thanks, Liam, and just got a new job teaching the same stuff for almost 20g more in the same city. When I first started I was so happy just to have a job that I worked for peanuts. After I had a good job I was so happy to have someone tell me I was doing well that I never looked for a better paying job because I feared failure. Now, I realize how few people are willing to do what I do and it's all about that paper, you know, what drives most teachers. This was true even back in the 70s, when I was working for a number of different Fortune-ranked companies in the Chicago area. There was so little appreciation of or reward for employee loyalty and / or tenure that the operative phrase of the day was, move up or move out. I hopped up the ladder by moving every 2 years or so, until I finally tired of the game and went into business for myself. That is still the phrase I operate under. Was delivering pizza out of college several years ago, and have managed to double my income every other year or so for the last decade. I've finally reached a place now where I'm finally saving the way I should, having paid off all the debt I accrued in the earlier years. I definitely stand behind the 2-year average. There are reasons to stay, like moving into a position closer to what you want to do, to gain some experience in it, etc., but eventually, it's just better to get out. Network like crazy, never tell the whole truth if you don't have to, don't try to make friends with co-workers like it's high school, and look out for yourself above all else. After being with the company for 5 years and only getting around a 5% raise each year, I decided to go and ask my manager if he'd be willing to match me up to what they're offering new hires, around 15% more than what I was currently making. Without hesitation, he said no, that there's nothing he could do about it. I started looking for a job somewhere else, without the intention of actually leaving the place, as I really like what I do, and I'm one of the most senior employees here. I got an offer for around 20% more of what I was getting paid. I promptly took my offer letter to my manager, and told him that if he was willing to make me a retention offer. He called HR right there in front of me, and in a matter of 2 days, I got a 30% raise counteroffer, enough to put me a good 15% above of what the new hires are getting offered, which I still think it's YMMV. Some employers will probably just tell you to go pound sand. TLDR, I got an offer from a different place, took the offer letter to my current employer after they had denied me a raise. The offer letter worked as leverage and got a counter for much more than what I was expecting. As a millennial, I can't even count the number of times I've heard boomers and other older people talk about how millennials don't want to or aren't willing to stick and around pay their dues, or something like that. Well, you know what, boomers, you're absolutely right, and it's because of shit like this. There is no longer any reward for paying your dues or demonstrating company loyalty. Companies stopped showing loyalty to their employees a long time ago, so why the fuck should we show loyalty to them? Just another example of how inconceivably out of touch so many boomers are with what it's like for the current younger generations. Spot on, this isn't the 1950s and 1960s anymore where America was the booming and prospering nation that they remember. Things are incredibly different now. I have jumped jobs every couple of years and each one was a pay increase every time. Sorry, but I'm looking out for my own interests. These companies pay a fraction of their income to employees, so I don't feel the least bit bad about it. Exactly. Those stories they tell about starting with a company in some entry-level position, and ultimately working your way up to upper management with benefits and a pension and all that shit doesn't fucking happen anymore. Boomers still haven't figured out that at some point over the last 40 years companies switched from treating employees like long-term investments to treating them like expendable assets. I got I think $500 for 5 years. They sold my division 5 months shy of my 10-year anniversary. I quit 2 months later. Imagine how monumentally shitty that new company was that I quit a nearly 10-year job almost immediately. Dude, I feel for you. The company I used to work for was sold a month after I never got a raise I was promised. I had been bugging the CEO for it and he kept putting me off. Then he revealed he had been in negotiations to sell the company the whole time. I brought up the raise with the new company. I was told that while it was in my contract, my new contract superseded the old and they would not be honoring the old contract. I had written the majority of one of the 2 products the company offered. Had they just honored what I had been promised, they would still have arguably one of their most productive programmers. Instead, I gave my 2 weeks and went to work for myself. Nickel and dime people and you will have zero loyalty every time.
If you enjoyed this week's effective way to waste time, hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. If you are enjoying the series, leave me a comment below. A special shout out to the content creators. You frickin' rock.